Welcome to the live stream AFA with Farzam Ehsani. We are going to be starting this AFA very shortly. I see there's a couple of you that are live already watching at the moment on YouTube. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes for the rest of you to join. But while we do that, we will welcome the CEO of Valor, Farzam. Welcome once again to Global Crypto. It's always a privilege to have you on.
Privilege is all mine. Thank you so much, James.
Are there any particular things that you would like to cover? Like, I mean, this was actually your idea to have an AMA, and then it was a big shout out to Cornell, who suggested the name AFA, which we thought was quite funny. What are your favorite topics that you'd like to see come through today?
I think really just anything that comes through from customers or the public, or questions about crypto or Valor specifically, or regulation or banking. And the reason I say banking is obviously this originated from someone asking about how people are earning interest on crypto and how does that all work.
Yeah.
And is Valor going to be doing it, etc. So very happy to share thoughts around that, and then whatever anybody else wants to ask. So I think really the nature of it is very free flowing, and just want to be as useful as I can to people with questions. So.
All right. Well, we know that you are going to be extremely useful, and I'm sure you have a lot to contribute. So there are a whole bunch of people already waiting for us. So we are just going to go through a couple of initial questions. So considering it's 12:29, I'm going to give one of our admins a shout out here. And obviously the man who came up with the name AFA, Cornell Groenewald. Cornell is also the man who executed the first trade on Valor, which is exciting. Cornell asks this, Farzam: what's the roadmap forward for Valor regarding different order types and possible Czar pairings?
Great question. So should we start, or are we gonna wait till 12:30 to give?
Well, let's. Okay, so your response there makes me feel like you would rather answer that with as many people online as possible. Okay, so I wanted to use that as a sort of preamble question.
Sure.
How about this one then, which is kind of similar? Saurav is asking, when stop loss and OCO? Would you like to answer that? Because that can also be covered by Cornell's question a little bit later on.
Yeah, so stop losses are actually very close to being deployed. We had started them some time ago, but we then decided just to enhance certain security features, because we thought, let's just get the foundation of Valor as strong as possible before we build up. And so obviously security is something that you're always building upon, but we're happy with the foundation. So stop losses are going to be going into testing very, very soon. And then I'm hopeful by the end of this year that we'll have them in. And including another couple of order types, probably fill or kill order types, immediate or cancel, and I think we're going to the previous question. There are a bunch of other order types that we want to start including on the platform. So really, I think that's one of the big things that customers have been asking for, is more flexibility and more functionality as far as placing orders, protections from a stop loss perspective. OCO orders, one cancels the other. So those things are coming in, but the first kind of rollout will be stop losses for new order types. And perhaps along with that, maybe immediate or cancel and fill or kill, but that's to be decided. But stop losses hopefully will be in by the holidays.
All right. Okay. So nice and comprehensive answer. It's now 12:31, so let's really get into the meat and drink of this AFA. Welcome everyone once again. If you're just joining us and you've just tuned in, thanks for stopping by. This is James from Global Crypto. I'm executive editor here. And a very big welcome once again to Farzam Ehsani, CEO of Valor. Farzam, such a great privilege to have you with us today. So we're going to get straight into the big question that kicked this all off. And for those of you that have any more questions, we are taking the questions in our Telegram group. So the link is there. I'll put it in, or I will ask Mark Forrest, who is a co-founder of Global Crypto, with me to put it in the YouTube chat box as well. But a link to our Telegram group. All questions will be fielded there. So if you have a question, put it in the Global Crypto Telegram group. We've got a couple already. But before I go to those, we're going to get to the question that actually sparked the idea of this AFA. It comes from Lou Morkel. Lou Morkel is quite a significant fintech entrepreneur in South Africa. He's the founder of Fractional. I'm sure you'll be in talks with Valor soon about their token eventually going live on Valor, if that's possible. But Lou, coming off of a question about a banking license for crypto because of the new FSCA regulations, his question was a savings product. As far as he knows, a savings product should be regulated. So a company needs a banking license if they're going to offer a savings product direct to the public. So his question is around a competitor. Of course, there's a competitor here in South Africa. I think, we can all be straightforward and talk straight. That competitor is, of course, Luno. They have a savings product. But are they going through a bank to get past regulations? He can't imagine them taking risk. What are your thoughts around that in terms of needing a banking license and to be able to offer interest on crypto sitting on exchange?
Sure. So it's a great question. And I think we need to just explore a little bit about how interest works, how yield works, how savings products work. So the first thing is just the banking license in South Africa and most places is really one of the main definitions is, are you a deposit-taking institution? So are you taking funds from customers, money from customers, and are you lending that out on the other side? And that's what's called fractional reserve banking. So you basically, someone lends, or deposits 100 Rand into an account. From their perspective, they place 100 Rand into an account, and that 100 Rand is accessible to them at all times. But unbeknownst to most people in the population, what the bank actually does is there's let's say a reserve ratio of 10%, and they'll say, cool, that's great. We think that, James, who deposited this 100 Rand is not going to take out more than 10 Rands tomorrow. So let's take the 90 Rand from his 100 Rand and let's lend that up on the other side. All right, and that's what's called fractional reserve banking. And that's actually what lends, how banks make money. They make money basically two ways: fees and interest. And the way they get interest is they take deposits, i.e. loans from their perspective, and then they lend it out to somebody else. They pay you a lower interest rate than what they charge other people. And that's basically how they make their interest portion. So deposit taking is the main thing when it comes to a bank, because, and also we're dealing with money, right? So if you take a deposit of a piece of art, for example, and you're holding it for someone in storage, right? You don't need a banking license, obviously, because even though you're taking somebody's thing of value, it's not money, right? So that's the first thing to consider. And in South Africa right now, crypto assets, as the regulators call them, or cryptocurrencies, haven't been defined, actually. There have been a couple of policy papers that have come out in the past 2 years. A few days ago, many of you will have seen the FSCA, the Financial Services Conduct Authority, issued a draft declaration to declare crypto assets as financial products, right? And that's under what's called the FASE Act. So that's going to be interesting. Tomorrow, I'm actually on another podcast with the Money Show talking to someone from the FSCA. I think it's going to be at 11 o'clock, not the Money Show, sorry, Money Web. And we're going to be discussing those regulations specifically. So now coming back to crypto and getting a yield product. So as you mentioned, there is a competitor that's offering that. We have considered that. We may offer it in the future. We're considering it. A lot of education needs to be done on that, because in the T's and C's, and you should go and read those T's and C's, effectively what you're doing is you're lending out your crypto to somebody else. Now, in this case, some of the big players are like Genesis and BlockFi. One of those is being used by our competitor. And and what's effectively happening is that they're taking the Bitcoin and they're depositing it with another institution. That other institution is then going and on lending it to other people and at an interest rate, and then paying back a fraction of that interest rate to the Bitcoin holders. So it's really important to note that there is risk to that. Now, that risk is mitigated because in crypto, you typically don't lend out crypto for an extended period of time. Why? Because if you lend out crypto to somebody and they borrow, let's say, a Bitcoin, and they owe you a Bitcoin later on, but they use that Bitcoin and they convert it to Rand to pay their, rent or whatever else it may be, or they convert to Rand to pay suppliers because they're starting up a business. Well, in all likelihood, your liability, which is the Bitcoin that you owe, is going to go up in value compared to the Rand that you just converted it for. And there's a very high likelihood of default, all right? So that typically doesn't happen in crypto. What we see in crypto is shorter dated lending, either 24 hours or 7 days. And generally what's happening, this is also collateralized. So as an example, if someone wants to borrow Bitcoin, then they may have to deposit some collateral in the form of USD or some other stable coin or other crypto asset that the lender deems fit to serve as collateral. And then if the market moves against you, once you've borrowed the Bitcoin, and the market moves against your asset, your collateral, then effectively whoever has lent you the Bitcoin can actually close you out and then get the Bitcoin back from you. So it's secured lending. That's what we in the banking space, that's what we call secured lending. Doesn't mean that all of crypto lending is secured lending, but a lot of it is secured lending. But I think it's important for people to know that when people are receiving a return on crypto long term, there are risks that they need to be aware of. Those risks, as I said, are mitigated oftentimes, but don't think that there is zero risk. And in fact, you are accepting that. Now, if Valor also launches such a product, which, as I said, we've been thinking about, then customers will also be taking the same risk, right? Because we will be lending it to somebody else, and then they'll be on lending it and earning a yield. So for me, it's really important that customers know that they understand that. And it will be important for Valor to make it abundantly clear what those risks are. So I think a lot of this stuff is in the T's and C's, as I said, but just make sure that you've actually read that. There's a lot of information in there.
All right, so just following on there, I'd like you to elaborate a little bit more on your expectations of the FSCA's rulings around crypto. Obviously, there is a statement which was released only just over a week ago about crypto assets being prepared to be declared as financial products, which means that crypto asset companies will need to get and obtain, from my understanding, a license and to become a financial services provider. Does that mean that, let's say, for instance, Valor gets such a license and becomes a licensed service provider, would you need another type of license to be able to offer interest on clients' crypto, or would it all fall under the same thing? Just give us some insight there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more color that needs to be provided by the FSCA and the regulators. As you know, this is just a draft declaration. So far, they're taking comments from the public until the end of January. So what I can share is my understanding so far is that they said that it will be declared, crypto assets will be declared as a financial product, And what that means is, as you mentioned, that players like Valor will have to apply to become a financial services provider. Now, if you look at the FASE Act, there are different categories that you can get licenses for. So things like that will need to be elaborated upon. We'll need to understand what exactly we can and can't do. And we also need to understand, and one of the things that Valor will be doing is to be engaging with the regulators to say, guys, are we sure that we're doing the right thing here? because on the one hand, we are fully for regulation that protects consumers from bad actors. There's no question there. But the question is, how do you regulate, and making sure that the way in which we regulate doesn't stifle innovation and it doesn't kind of kill an industry, and at the same time it doesn't stop the bad actors, right? And so basically, if you look at the financial products right now in that Phase Act, they all have central issuers, right? They all have, they're like debentures or securities or things of that nature. Gold is not on the list, right? So when we say crypto assets is a very broad term that includes all sorts of assets. I mean, there could be crypto securities. There could be, in the future, a central bank issued digital currency. That's also a crypto asset. Is that going to be a financial product? Maybe, maybe not, right? A deposit, by the way, in the Phase Act is a financial product, but a RAND, from my understanding, is not, right? So should crypto securities be regulated as securities? Absolutely. It doesn't make a difference whether you're giving someone the rights to a security on a piece of paper, a digital ledger, or on a blockchain, right? It's the same rights that you're giving to them. So we just want to make sure that it's a prudent approach, it's a relevant approach, it's a fair approach, it's an appropriate approach, so that we can allow kind of this industry to prosper. And I think this industry has a huge amount to offer South Africa and South Africans, not just from crypto assets, but from the perspective of employment, tax revenue, etc., which this country is in dire need of. So let's just make sure that it's appropriate is my main message. And again, I think we'll just need to refine what that draft declaration was. And obviously the regulators will be the ultimate deciders upon this. But as far as asking people to register, or asking institutions like Valor to register so that the regulators know who's playing in the space, we've been for that. We've been engaging with the regulators for many years now, welcoming that. So let's see what that comes out. But I think there's a lot more color that needs to be shared on that.
Agreed. Farzam, what about your involvement with the Intergovernmental FinTech Working Group? Are you speaking into the regulation? How big a voice do you and Valor have in the contribution towards the drafting of these regulations?
So we are part of a subset of participants that are often invited to workshops, meetings. We generally try to meet with the regulators in any case on a quarterly basis, so that they understand what we're doing. We can keep close to understanding what they're doing. And so how strong is my voice, or influential is my voice? You'll have to ask them. I have no idea. Maybe they just entertain me and then laugh once I leave the room. Who knows? I don't think that's the case. But we have a good relationship. Many of them are my friends, and there's a mutual respect there. And I think one of the things that we are aligned on is trying to do something that's in the best interests of South Africans. In fact, I was talking to a bunch of regulators, a bunch of people yesterday, a number of regulators yesterday, and on a particular topic, actually was speaking against Valor's interests, because I felt that those interests were more fair and just for the ecosystem overall. So like what we try to do is that, Valor is, we're trying to build a better society. We're trying to build a better financial system. We're trying to build a world with more justice. We've got lofty aspirations, and so those principles need to start at home. So hopefully we have an influential voice. But again, as I said, I think you're probably better placed to ask them what they think about me than me.
Well, when I get the chance to, I most certainly will. Trying to get hold of various people, certainly at the Reserve Bank, is no easy task. But nonetheless,
I'll make a plan for you. We'll get someone from the Reserve Bank. I'll contact them, and I'm sure they would love to be on one of your shows, James.
Well, I look forward to that. Maybe that's the next step. So Farzam, before we get into all the questions that people have lined up, we've got a whole bunch ready to go. But before we do, I'm going to ask one final question from this set of questions and this category around regulation. I mean, obviously you have a banking background. You were with RMB, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have any idea of how the declaration, let's say, for instance, this declaration from the FSCA that's going to be published sometime in the next couple of months, how does that get passed? Is there a board at the FSCA? Does it go through the SARB first? Does it go to even higher echelons of government who sign it off before such a declaration gets released? Tell us about that process if you have insight.
Sure. I'm not a lawyer or a regulatory expert. I obviously have to seek legal counsel and to get familiar with the regulations as part of my role as CEO of Valor. So my understanding is right now there's going to be kind of a public comment period until the end of January. Now, if you actually look at the FASE Act, there is a section that talks about what a financial product is. And it lists a whole bunch of products, and then at the end, it kind of says, or similar products. I'm really paraphrasing over here, right? And so I think there are, within the FASE Act, actually refers to the Financial Services Board, which has become the FSCA, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. And it gives them certain powers to be able to determine what a financial product is. Again, based on what the FASE Act actually says in that clause. So I think there could be, and Valor isn't necessarily intending to go down this route at all, but there could be people that wish to challenge that, to say this is actually outside of the mandate and that actually we need to get legislative change rather than just adding a product to a particular schedule or something like that, or category. So I don't know exactly what happens after that. I do think it depends on the degree to which people are changing or adding financial products and whether they fit into the categories or they are similar to the products that already exist. But I'm not exactly sure, and we haven't been given timelines either as to post the public comment period, what will be happening. And my assumption is that there will also be some type of a grace period for crypto asset service providers to actually comply if this passes and if this actually proceeds to become FSPs. It's quite a big process to become an FSP. I mean, I suppose there are quicker ways to do it than others, but there are requirements, there are responsibilities, there's costs associated with it, etc. So I can't imagine that the regulators won't allow crypto asset providers the time to actually become compliant.
All right, so it is quite a process. It's going to be interesting to see this all play out, and of course, here at Global Crypto, we will keep the African public up to date as much as we possibly can. Let's get into a couple of questions. Just to remind everyone, we are only taking questions in our Telegram group, not on our WhatsApp or any other social media channels. Already got a couple of questions coming through. The first one I'm going to ask you, Farzam, is about exchange wallet addresses on Valor. Does Valor know the owner? And this comes from BB, so it's sort of anonymous. BB asks, does Valor know the owner of each exchange wallet address? Meaning, can you identify each exchange wallet address to a Valor user?
So if I understand the question correctly, by definition, we have to know who the owner is and who is identified with that address, because every customer that signs up gets a unique address, an exchange address, and I assume that you're talking about Bitcoin, Ether, or XRP. And then once that particular address receives funds, it gets allocated to that customer. So by definition, we have to know who that customer is. And because Valor KYCs all our customers, then we know what their identity is as well. If we didn't know, then we wouldn't be able to credit people with the value. I think maybe just one thing, just to help people understand how an exchange works a little bit on the inside. We have a wallet team, and we have to create a whole bunch of addresses. And these are addresses that, as I said, we assign to our different customers. And by definition, they have to be unique. Otherwise, how would I know that, James, you've received some Bitcoin versus, I have, for example, as a customer? So by virtue of just having an address that receives some crypto on the blockchain, that doesn't automatically, add funds to a customer's account. There's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done to integrate with the wallet infrastructure into our customer accounts, our customer balances, the front end, the app, etc. So by definition, we have to know whose wallet address belongs to whom.
All right. Well, yeah, I think it makes sense, and it's pretty important that people understand that when dealing with a regulated exchange. All right. So perhaps you can get into this question here that we asked earlier from one of our admins and a very ardent Valor user, Cornel Groenewald. Cornel, thanks for all your help and assistance, even making this AFA possible through your idea. Cornel asks, what is the roadmap forward for Valor regarding different order types and possible Czar pairings?
All right, great question. So let's talk about in two phases, the order types and then the Czar pairings. As I said earlier, the stop limits should hopefully be in soon, hopefully this year. With those, we should hopefully, let me not promise, but either with them or soon after, we should probably have fill or kill or immediate or cancel. We want to do a whole bunch of other order types, OCOs, etc. in the future. Those are not going to be in this year, but will be worked on very soon. And we want to, there's actually a whole bunch that we want to actually bring to our customers to allow them to be able to use the exchange as efficiently as possible. So that's on the order types. Then the second part of the question, which was, I'm blanking here now, James. The second part of the question, order types, and then...
The second part of the question, Farzam, was Czar pairings. Can you give an idea of Czar pairings on the roadmap?
Sure. So let me share a little story that may help answer this question. So being in finance, I was always struck how, to be able to do a trade between South African Rand and the Nigerian Naira, for example, that you have to first go through the dollar. So you actually have to take the dollar, you have to go to dollar rand and then dollar Naira. I felt that's kind of weird. Like, why don't we just have a direct Nigerian, a Naira Czar pair, right? Or a Czar Kenyan Rand pair, or a Czar Pula pair, or any other currency, right? Kwacha, whatever maybe. And I never understood this, and I thought it was kind of silly and legacy of the past or whatever maybe. And then getting into crypto, ironically, I started to understand why the traditional financial system does it that way. So if you look at and feel free to go to any kind of Czar pair that's not Bitcoin in South Africa, all right, on our platform or any other platform, you'll see that by far the deepest liquidity is on the Bitcoin Rand pair, right? Ethereum Rand has some liquidity, XRP, Czar has some liquidity, but by far the deepest liquidity pools are Bitcoin Rand, okay? If you look at other Czar pairings, they have very little liquidity.
Before you continue, Farzam, just repeat that part. You said the one with the most liquidity is Bitcoin Czar.
In South Africa.
Yes, Bitcoin Czar. Yeah. Okay, right.
Yeah, Bitcoin Czar in South Africa.
Okay.
Right? Now, if you look at any other Czar pair, it has very little liquidity. And what that means is if you want to do a big trade, you're likely to have quite a bit of slippage. How's the connection, by the way? You're coming in and out. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm just actually asking the same thing on our Telegram group. So for those of you that are watching this, if you don't mind just throwing in your thoughts on the connection. But a response so far has come through saying it's 96% good. So I think we're happy with it for now.
Let's try to get to 100. Okay. So So going back, if you look at a Czar like altcoin pair, if you want to trade a lot, there is a tremendous amount of slippage that you could encounter or incur. What that means is there's not enough liquidity on the buy side or the sell side, and therefore, if you want to buy up some of that altcoin, you're going to actually buy up a lot into the order book, and your price that you're executed on is not going to be the best price that you could possibly get. Now, the alternative, right? All right, we've got deep Bitcoin Czar liquidity, and there is also deep Bitcoin altcoin liquidity. And so rather than going Czar altcoin directly, is to actually go through Bitcoin, right? So you take your rands, you buy Bitcoin, it's deep liquidity. You take your Bitcoin and you buy, altcoin. So we are right now, we offer that, as 2 steps on the Valor platform, and we're going to be looking at making that actually a single step, so that you can actually get into a whole bunch of different cryptos on Valor with Czar without incurring slippage. So there's a bunch of pros and cons, because you may or may not have an order book, but the point is that it's very difficult to have a Czar altcoin pair that's not liquid. And what customers don't see is that if there isn't enough liquidity, someone does do a big buy, people get upset because they said, listen, I'm just trying to buy some crypto. Why can't I get a good price, right? So liquidity is critically important for any exchange.
All right.
So I hope that answers. So we're looking at it. Obviously, we're always investigating direct order books of Czar pairs, but we're very careful because liquidity needs to be there. And when liquidity isn't there, or we don't believe that the market is big enough to support deep liquidity, then we're very, very cautious because we don't want traders to have bad experience.
All right. So it really is. It's important to take note of liquidity, and yeah, I mean, I get that. You have to have liquidity and offer a fair product, and it could affect your actual product offering. So fully understand that. So Johan asked that question about alt Czar pairs. He also just want to jump in here. Cornell put in a question from Johan Rousseau, who's asked about the competitor offering interest earning accounts on BTC. Just to say, Johan, we have answered that earlier. And to summarize what Farzam said, he basically said that it has been considered by Valor, but because it is in essence fractional reserve, there are numerous risks involved, and they want to take that all into cognizance before offering it to the public. And so it's still in very much a consideration phase. We sharding has a couple of negative things to say. We sharding, we see you. So take it easy, buddy, before I boot you off the group. But he does ask about functionality on Valor. He really wants to talk about functionality. So that leads me into another question that we did have earlier from Saurav. Saurav said, when stop losses on Valor and OCO?
Okay, so we already answered, and it feels like there's a lot of demand. So I'm glad that we're going to be getting stop losses in soon. Just to reiterate, we mentioned that it's hopefully in by the end of the year, and OCO will probably be in next year. So I can't say exactly when, but the roadmap includes a bunch of different order types, OCO included, but others as well.
All right. BB then asked another question regarding the crypto wallet. So you answered the question about users and identifying wallets. BB then wants to ask this: does Valor know the crypto balance of each Valor exchange wallet?
Well, we have to know, because if we don't know, then how do we show you what your balance is, right? So if we had no idea, then we couldn't operate as an exchange. So by definition, we need to know, like what we offer our customers is, the ability to store their crypto with us. to buy and sell crypto, etc. And obviously, there's a whole bunch of transactional, history that takes place. There's a whole bunch of deposits and withdrawals that takes place. And if we didn't know your balance, then we couldn't show you your balance on your app or on the web. So by definition, we have to certainly know what every single customer's balance is. If we don't, you should be very worried, but we certainly have to know.
Okay, so next question comes from Louis Nell, a very special houser to Louis. Louis is a fairly influential digital influencer, certainly in the financial space, and often loves to hunt down scams and potential scams and flag them. So welcome to Louis, who's joined our Telegram group today. Great to have you on. Louis asks this, Farzam, does Valor flag external BTC wallet addresses and warn customers if they are about to transfer funds to potential scam projects?
Yes, we have done that. So where we believe that there is suspicion involved in a particular address, then we actually have a pop-up to the customer that says, please be aware, you may be, you're trying to send your crypto to an address that has been reported as suspicious. Do you want to proceed or not? And I think it's important to say that we don't believe that we should be censoring people's financial decisions, right? I think we have an obligation to help them understand and get more information about what they're doing. And that's why we give them a pop-up that says, listen, we don't know for sure, but from what we see, this doesn't look, it's probably not such a good idea that you send your crypto to this address, so please reconsider effectively. Obviously, if there are sanctioned addresses, etc., by law that we're not allowed to send to, and there are some of those, then that's a different story altogether. But where it's what we deem a suspicious address, we certainly warn our customers where we can. Yeah, it's without going into the details, it's difficult because people that are malicious are they're very driven and they're very reactive. So what's important for us is that we need to be able to identify particular addresses that are associated with those entities. But as soon as they see that you're starting to identify those addresses, then they start changing their addresses in different ways and making it very difficult for you to identify. So we do everything we can, but it's obviously ultimately it's the user's responsibility just to make sure to look into what they're actually doing and where they're sending their crypto, and making sure that it's not just a pipe dream and the get-rich-quick scheme, because then they're going to be in trouble.
All right. Well, that's good to know that there is quite a strong level of protection that you are offering your clients. I mean, that just those kind of warnings really should be immediately red flags for people. Okay, so the next question comes from Carl. Carl says, is there any chance of Valor adopting a tiered fee structure in the future?
It's a great question. We've thought about it a lot. I think what we're excited about is that I think before Valor came along, the South African public was basically, they didn't have much choice as far as a decently priced exchange was concerned. So the competitors out there, the fees were what we felt very high. And so we came in and we kind of put our best foot forward. And on our exchange, as most people know, we have a negative maker fee, which means we pay people to bring liquidity to our platform. And then we have, which is negative 10 basis points or negative 0.1%. And then we have a taker fee of 0.2%. And so since we came to the market, what we've seen is that the two biggest players have actually slashed their fees. So I think that's great for the consumer, because the consumers now have more choice and they can actually transact at a cheaper cost. And obviously, more recently, our largest competitor slashed their fees by over 90%, by about 90%. So our fee structure right now is actually on their first tier is actually the same. So they're at 0% maker, 0.1% taker. We're at negative 0.1% maker and positive 0.2 taker. So cumulative, we both net 10 basis points there. So we've thought about doing a tiered exchange, a tiered pricing model. And some people have said, can you come down and bring your taker fee down to 0.1%? Right now, we can't bring our fee down to 0.1%. And the only reason is that we're paying others for every trade 0.1%, right? So this is one of the things that we'd love to hear more from our customers on, like what their preference is. Are they happy with the current fee structure? Do they want to bring down the taker fee and also reduce the maker fee or the maker reward? The one reason that I like our fee structure right now is if you look at our order books against any other order book in South Africa, Bitcoin Rand, let's take Bitcoin Rand, typically on the buy and the sell offer, the buy order and the sell order, Valor generally, pretty much most of the time, has the biggest orders to hit, right? And that's really good because if you want to get out of a position, then you've got liquidity that you can hit and get out of that position without slippage. And I think what a lot of people fail to see is that they think, oh, okay, cool, maybe I can go to somewhere else, there's a cheaper taker fee. But what they don't realize is that yes, they're paying a smaller percentage, but if they're doing a large trade that moves up the order book, then they're actually getting a worse price, even though they're paying a lower fee. And so overall, they're actually worse off. All right. So I think that's really important to understand that difference. So if we did change our fee structure and we, for instance, brought down our maker fee, then the incentives would be such that you wouldn't have market makers to the extent that you do have now that are there waiting for you to hit their order book, right? So we actually think I think we need to educate the market a little bit more, because I actually think in many cases where people think that they're getting a better deal by paying a little bit of a lower taker fee, their cost of the trade is actually more because there wasn't sufficient liquidity, for example, for a large trade, right? Now, obviously, this depends on the size of the trade, etc. But generally, you want to be able to go to an order book or an exchange and execute a very large order without worrying about the order book moving, which means that the price will move and therefore you'll get a worse off price. So to come back to the original question, are we thinking about tiered fee structure? Yes, we've thought about it. We haven't started implementing it or anything like that right now. It's very easy for us to change fees. We can match our competitors very easily. And in fact, if we match our competitors right now as it stands, we would effectively, our financials would actually be unchanged. But we just think that there is, even though you're paying the 0.2%, you're actually paying for liquidity. And we feel that's very, very valuable. So we'd love to hear more of what people think. Hit me up on Farzam Ehsani on Twitter and just let me know what your thoughts are. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, already a couple of comments come through from the users saying the fees are currently perfect. Nothing beats the negative 0.1% fee. So people do love that maker offering that you have. And it makes a lot of sense. You have incentivized makers and attracted them to your platform, which is in the long run much better for traders. An interesting question here, which is more around user experience, specifically for the app. Mr. Mdunyiswa Mkiz asks, is there any possibility to have something like an explore in Valor app so that it's easy to understand the app? So I think if I can interpret your question, Mr. Mdunyiswa, you're asking, is there a place on the app to learn about how to use the app? I think that's his question. I'm going to repeat it verbatim for you to interpret as well, Farzam. Is there any possibility to have something for Explore in Valor app so that it's going to be easy to understand it?
We can certainly consider that. So I'll pass that on to our product team to actually see how we can make it easier. I'd be interested from that user to know, and again, feel free to just ping me on Twitter. What exactly is difficult? What have they found challenging? We try to make the app as intuitive as possible, but obviously, if that's the feedback that's coming through, we need to improve it. So I'll definitely pass that feedback to the product team. But if they can also just ping me on Twitter so that I can understand a little bit more of what exactly, are they looking just for general information about crypto, or are they looking about specifically the app, that they want to know how you do a buy order or a sell order? Do they want to know how to use the exchange versus our simple buy sell feature? So please do ping me, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, the next question comes from Nick, who asked it on WhatsApp. Nick, don't forget, we need these questions in Telegram, but thanks to Mark for bringing it through here. He asks if Valor will offer ETH2 staking at some point down the line. Obviously, it's very early days for ETH 2.0, but at some point down the line, will Valor offer ETH 2.0 staking?
We certainly hope so. So I think it's the very early days. I think it's very promising. I think there's been a lot of good news and progress recently about moving to ETH 2.0. So I think as the world starts migrating, and as that project starts proving itself, and ETH 2.0 starts becoming a reality, which has been in the works for some time, then certainly we'll be looking at that for sure.
All right, just got a new question that's just come through from obviously a user who's a bit late to the party. I just wanted to make mention of this before we move on to the next question. To me, asked about crypto-backed loans, which is interesting. I'm not sure, Mr. Me, if you're asking around sort of more collateralized loans, or actual just general interest-bearing crypto accounts, which has been covered by Farzam, which you can watch on this stream as a YouTube video a little bit later. We will get to your other question there, Mr. Me, shortly. First, I want to get through everyone else's who asked earlier. Extreme asks this one, Farzam. Are there any insurances on our funds with Valor?
Great question. So we are actually at the moment in discussions with insurance companies to get insurance. There are very few crypto exchanges around the world that have insurance, and typically the insurance that they have is not on their entire value of crypto assets, but it might be in what's in a cold wallet or a hot wallet, depending on what the insurance policy states. So we would love to get insurance. We are trying to get insurance. Recently, we went through a lot. I mean, the insurance companies obviously asked a lot of questions about what Valor's operations are and how we work. And so we're going through those motions to see if we can get insurance. I think the challenge is right now that insurance companies, for the most part, don't know how to price this risk. Right? It's a new industry. Insurance is old, a very, very old industry. But crypto itself, you need to be able to understand what is the risk, what determines the risk. And I think a lot of the insurance companies, to be able to price that, need to understand crypto extremely well. Not just crypto, but what are the different mechanisms of securing that crypto? What are the differences between the different wallet types? And you can say that you've got different types of wallet types, a cold wallet, but do you have multi-sig? And if you do have multi-signature, which is several different keys that are required to move funds, where are those keys held? What type of security, et cetera, et cetera. So we do not have insurance right now, and it's important to be explicit about that, which we've done before, and we're always transparent. We are working to get it, but it is not an easy feat. We're working closely with some insurance companies to see if we can get that, but as of right now, it's still a work in progress.
So when you say it's not an easy feat, is it because of, and forgive me if I missed some of this reading through some of the social media and the questions, but just for my clarity, is it not an easy feat because insurance companies are very concerned about insuring crypto assets?
So let's look at it this way. So yes, that's part of it, right? But you know, a lot of companies in the world that are household brands have a long history, right? As a crypto company, by definition, you cannot have a long history because the asset class itself is only a decade old, right? And most of the players in this asset class now are only a couple of years old. So put yourselves in the shoes of an insurance company, and you just get an email from a company called Valor, VALR, and they're saying, "Hey, we've got a bunch of crypto. Can you insure us?" Right? Now they don't know who we are, right? They've never heard of us before, probably. Maybe some are starting to hear about us, but they need to first ascertain who we are, who the directors are, who the investors are, etc. Just are we legit? Number one. Then number two, the security of crypto assets is a very, very complicated thing. So A, they need to have the know-how to be able to evaluate what we're doing, right? And B, we are very, very selective and very careful about how we share, you know, certain things about how Valor operations work because of security reasons. Now, we're as open as we can, and on our website, you can actually read from a principles perspective, you know, how we do multi-sig, how we have different hot, warm, cold wallets, that the fact that these the keys of the multi-signature are geographically dispersed in different locations, and military and institutional grade storage and vaults that are video monitored, they're biometrically accessed, etc., right? But the point is that there is A, understanding who the player is, B, the content of actually how do we actually evaluate this, and then C is, you know, insurance is you know, actuarial science exercise. You know, you've got a lot of historical data that you use to price a particular product. There just simply isn't a lot of historical data in the crypto space. You know, there've been a bunch of hacks across exchanges around the world, and like, is that representative of what the future will be? Is that a large enough data size, etc.? And the answer is not really right now. So there's a lot of effort that needs to be done and education to be able to price the risk.
And also, I guess for aggressive, which is probably a bit of an oxymoron, but aggressive underwriters and insurance companies, probably an opportunity to take the first step.
100%. I think there's a great opportunity.
All right, so next question comes from Linley. Linley asks, simple two-worded question, leveraged trading?
Three-word answer, would love it. We are it's on the roadmap. Let's put it that way. It's on the roadmap. We need to just make sure from a regulatory perspective that everything is good. And in fact, earlier today, I just saw that a large exchange in the United States just recently announced they're going to be stopping, I think, margin trading and leverage trading because of the regulators. So I actually haven't had a chance to read through that. But again, I think it's a big thing from a regulatory perspective to be doing that. But I would love to bring that to our customers.
All right, just a couple of comments that have come through as well. A response to leverage trading was, yo, you want me to lose all my Czar, lol. And then BB actually responded to one of your points already, Farzam, saying Valor has implemented many suggestions made by users, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It was great feedback to receive. Thank you. And
now to me's question, to me. I'm not sure if it's to my or to me. His question about crypto-backed loans we have covered, but his next question is a basic one. Is Vala hiring?
We are. Careers.valor.com. So go check us out. We have a whole bunch of positions available. We're particularly looking for a Node.js developer, so a senior Node.js developer. So if anybody knows a senior developer, Node.js developer, put us in touch. We would really appreciate that. Our team size is actually, I'm really grateful for this, James. Our team size has doubled since the onset of lockdown. So we are really, really grateful that in this precarious time that we've been able to create employment, hire new people, welcome them to the team, and keep growing as an exchange. So thanks to all our customers for allowing us to be able to do that. We wouldn't be able to do that without your support.
Yeah, that really is fantastic. And I think, it just speaks to the growth of the industry as well. This is, we've seen as well, our company, SwiftX, the holding company of Global Crypto, really has seen a wonderful number of opportunities open up in lockdown, and so it really is such an exciting industry to be part of. So yeah, we hope, I know you've been looking for that senior Node.js developer for quite some time, so we're hoping that you find them very, very soon. Out of interest sake, just when it comes to remote work and what have you, would you hire internationally, or does the legislation and the sort of HR challenges of hiring an international employee become too difficult for that?
We have some contractors that are international that we use. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think all our employees, permanent employees, are SA based at the moment. But we obviously have aspirations for international expansion. So it's certainly not I mean, in this day and age, you can be anywhere doing whatever you want, right? So as particularly for a digital space like ours, where there literally is nothing physical about what we do. So yeah.
All right. To me, with another question here as I move down the questions, and we are getting close to the end. Farzam, one thing I didn't do is just check how long do you have. I'm assuming you had an hour. Do you have any more time in case there's some more questions that come through?
I have more time, so we can, we can play by ear.
All right, we'll try and get through as many questions as possible. And for those of you that have just tuned in, there is a link in the YouTube description to our Telegram group. That's where we are taking the questions. Ask your questions in the Telegram group, and I will put them forward to Farzam. The next one comes from To Me again. He says, will there be integration with Valor and Bank Zero? I'm assuming his question is based on To Me. Clarify for me, just I'm curious. But I'm assuming that question is based on Michael Jordan's backing of Valor, and of course he is an investor in Bank Zero. So he asks, will there be integration with those two entities, Bank Zero and Valor?
So there are no plans right now necessarily for that integration. I think Bank Zero is focused on getting off the ground themselves. So they've just recently announced some progress with their launch and their price list and a whole bunch of different things. So I think their focus is actually just getting off the ground with their core product, which is just banking South Africans. So we'll have those discussions in time, but at the moment their focus is elsewhere. And we respect that.
All right. Just curious regarding, so Mr. Mead does confirm that is where the question comes from. Just curious about your involvement with Michael. Was he a sort of angel investor that hasn't required much feedback and reporting, or has he been a little bit more involved at a perhaps board level or a consultative level at Valor that has influenced a lot of what you've done so far?
So he was the angel, so a fantastic angel at that. Michael's approach is a very encouraging and kind of hands-off approach. I mean, we've been doing well, so let's see. I don't know what it would have been like if the opposite happened. But I think he's someone that came in. I think he paid in his investment, I think within 3 weeks of Valor actually launching, which was wonderful. And he's there as a sounding board. He's actually not on our board officially, and he's very busy. He's involved in a lot of different startups with Bank Zero, et cetera, et cetera. So I also try not to take too much of his time, as he is a very busy individual. But he's available. If we have a question or we need to have a chat, we catch up every now and then. But he's a wonderful investor to have, and I would really recommend, if there is anybody that has the opportunity to work with Michael, they should certainly take it.
Wonderful to hear. All right, that's awesome. Okay, so the next one comes through from Byron. I think Byron is also a little bit late, but perhaps there could be some elaboration. It does tie into some earlier answers around the monitoring of wallets and what have you, but it is a little bit unique. Does Valor do chain analysis on any Bitcoin deposits or withdrawals?
We do. So the reason we do that is for a number of reasons. So there was an earlier question about, do we warn customers when they're sending to an address that is, associated with a scammer or something like that, right? And the only way we know that, our business is not to analyze the blockchain, right? Our business is to offer our customers the best trading experience possible and the simplest for our new beginners, and a high performance exchange for advanced users. So we do use blockchain analysis tools to understand where funds are coming and going to, and particularly to make sure that Valor remains a platform that is a force of good for society, not just for our customers. I think it's really important to note there are scams in this space, as people know, and one scam that sometimes takes place is that people will sign up on Valor as what's called a mule account or something like that, and then they'll basically scam somebody else by saying, "Listen, I'll sell you a car. Send me the rand to this, these banking details," and basically those banking details are that person's Valor wallet that they go and then buy Bitcoin and then send Bitcoin off. So we have a lot of fraud detection systems in place that are very, they work very well, right? And so unfortunately, what comes with that is a little bit of inconvenience to some customers if certain things are delayed, and we try not to make that happen at all. But we spend a lot of time taking care not just of our customers, but of people that are not even our customers, that we don't know them, right? And so it's really important that Valor is used for social good, that Valor is a platform that's not just come and buy and sell, but we're actually, throughout our ethos in the company and hopefully through our customers as well, we've got a purpose behind us. We're trying to make a better world. And what that comes is you have certain principles, and whether those principles apply to humanity at large. So you try to treat people with respect, regardless of whether you're a customer or not. And one of those things that helps us do that is using chain analysis tools, blockchain analysis tools.
All right. Well, that's good to know. And it's such a difficult industry, isn't it? I mean, not just crypto, but finance in general. When it comes to finance, there's just so many nefarious actors in the space. So I'm going to just read some comments that came from Lou Morkel, who was the original sort of catalyst for this AFA, Ask Farzam Anything. And he just says, always so eloquent, Farzam. My view on savings products remain the same. I don't think regulators would differentiate between a regular fiat-based savings product offered by a bank and a crypto savings product offered by an unregulated institution on the technical difference between fiat and crypto. I believe they will look at the risk that scam savings products hold for less savvy consumers and move to protect. A fiat savings product at a bank suggests that a consumer hands over and trusts someone else with their money. The same applies for crypto. Trust is where the void is. Consumers trust too easily, and it is the duty of regulators to protect people against unscrupulous scammers, regardless of the underlying techniques and technology. To legitimate, or rather, I think he's saying to legitimize their savings product, I believe that your competitor is either taking their chances in this currently unregulated crypto asset space, or they are partnering with a bank. Either way, I wouldn't be surprised if your competitor is planning on becoming a bank soon. Just wanted to read that out to you in case you have any comments on that comment.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I don't think that in this space, you know, I think we've got a lot of mutual respect. And I would hope that they're doing things correctly, and I would assume that they are doing things correctly. I think it's also important to note that it's not a guess game as to what they're doing and who they're partnering with. So you can go and check that they're partnering with a company called Genesis, and that's how they're able to produce the yield. So I hope that, can you still hear me, James? Yeah, all right. So they're partnering with a company called Genesis, and that's how they're getting their yield. You know, we've been in discussions with Genesis as well. We have discussions with other providers as well. So I think if you go and read into your T's and C's, I think all the information is there. And you will see also that there are certain limitations to using that product. You don't have access to your funds immediately. And those limitations also come from the partner. So, I would really encourage just taking a read through some of those terms and conditions. You know, they are doing everything is above board, and I have no reason to doubt that anything is not above board. So, but just take a look at it, because there are obviously risks. You know, even if something is above board, there are always risks associated with these things. So just take a look at those T's and C's.
All right, let's move on to a few more questions here. So before I get into Saurav's one, I just want to touch on this one because it has come through on our WhatsApp group, the announcement that Binance will support the Spark airdrop. So I don't mean to put you in a corner, but I think, you know, Binance obviously being a global exchange, perhaps not so much directly competing with Valor. The question comes from BB, are there plans for Valor to support that XRP Spark airdrop?
I hope so. We will be making an announcement probably within the next, you know, the deadline for that is the 12th of December. That's where kind of a snapshot will be taken. So we are hoping to make an announcement either way, probably at least a few days before, so that customers know, and so that they have enough time, if we decide not to proceed, to withdraw their XRP to somewhere where they can claim their Spark token. But what I can say, without promising, because I can't speak out of turn here, and a lot of my colleagues are also responsible for the work involved here, but we are trying to push for it. Our official stance so far has been we're not supporting it, just because we don't want people to think that we are, and then we don't, and then they're left in a pickle. So the official stance right now is that we're not supporting it, but hopefully within the next week or so, we will announce that we are. But as I said, only act on that once you've seen an official announcement, because we're just working through all that's required to do that in a responsible way, and to make sure that we can get the Spark tokens to customers. One thing I will say, someone on Twitter recently said, oh, you know, if you guys don't claim it and give it to your customers and support the airdrop, then, you know, you're being disingenuous and you're claiming it for yourselves, etc. And just to be abundantly clear, if we claim it, it is for our customers. We will never not claim it for our customers and claim it for ourselves. That's not how we operate. That's not our ethics. That's not our ethos. So if it's claimed, it will be for customers for sure.
All right, so just working through the bureaucratic requirements of a company as big as Valor, I'm sure. Okay, guys, we are running to the very end of our questions. If you have any more, last chance in the Telegram group, please. One more question from Saurav. What other things are on the Valor roadmap that we might have missed to ask? Is there anything, Farzam, that you are excited to share with us that perhaps hasn't been covered yet?
Sure. I think let me share a little bit of my own personal aspirations for Valor and what that would mean from a product perspective. So crypto is very niche right now. We believe that it will grow. James, just a confirmation that you can hear me. James?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think perhaps your video might be breaking up a little bit, but we can hear you okay.
Okay. Strange. Okay, so what I was saying is that crypto is, still niche, although it's becoming much more mainstream now. And what we hope to do is to serve people, right? That's our biggest aspiration, is to serve people. We happen to be serving people in the crypto space right now. But I think what's important to note about Valor, an exchange like Valor, is that we have certain technologies that and certain know-how and certain infrastructure that the largest banks in South Africa don't have. So the two things that we have at a fundamental infrastructural level is we have, the infrastructure to be able to secure crypto assets, right, through our different hot, warm, cold wallet infrastructure. And then the second thing we have is a matching engine, right? And this matching engine is proprietary. It's built by us from the ground up. I think right now we've done, if I'm not mistaken, close to about 25 billion Rand of trading, if I'm not mistaken, something like that in our entire history of Valor. So there's been a lot. Our matching engine has been tested to the extreme, obviously. And the matching engine that we have, believe it or not, banks don't have that. Banks utilize other matching engines like the JSCs or Bloombergs or Reuters and things like that for FX or stocks or securities of that nature. So because we have this matching engine, we can conceivably use this matching engine for lots of different types of assets. So, we don't have the license to do this right now, but could we offer securities from a technical perspective? Absolutely. Could we offer FX from a technical perspective? Absolutely. Dollar Rand, we could certainly offer that. Could we? And going back to one of the questions that your customers asked, which one of the people asked, I don't know if it's a customer or not, but like collateralized lending, is that we actually want to get into the lending space where you can, use your Bitcoin, put it on Valor, and then take out a Rand loan, for example, right? So there's lots of ideas that we have, lots of things that we want to do. One of the things that we're thinking about right now is a remittance service, for example, right? If you're bringing in dollars into South Africa, then for sure we can beat the rate of any bank by a long mile. And in fact, because of some of the premium that exists in South Africa, if you send 100 Rands worth of, $100 from the States, let's just say, to South Africa, you could probably get into your Valor account, let's say $101 worth of Rands, whereas if you went through the banking system, you get $98 worth of Rands because of all the fees, right? So there's a lot of things that we can do that we're investigating and that we're trying to bring to our customers. So yeah, so our aspiration is of service in the financial space. We also don't like the dichotomies. I don't like the dichotomy of saying, it's crypto versus the banks, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we want to serve people. Whatever you call yourself, if you want to, work with us to serve people, we'll do that. That's our primary objective is to serve.
All right, very aspirational, and as usual from yourself, Farzam, just a real ambitious and idealistic outlook on the future, which I appreciate. Just a quick how's it to a couple of people in the YouTube comments. Robin O'Brien, hello to you, Robin. Nice to see you with us today. Francois as well asked this in the YouTube comments. So we are done with Telegram comments. I'm just having a look if we've missed anything. Kosi Morafo just wanted to congratulate you, Farzam, for what you and the team have been able to create. He is a very happy client.
Thank you so much.
Francois Ntahondi asked, I'd imagine the answer is no, but just want to give you the space to respond. I'd imagine this is a support thing. Obviously, when it comes to finances, people always asking around support. They want people help. And I'm going to perhaps explore this, but also give you the opportunity to respond to his question. Francois Ntahondi asks, can you please provide us with a physical address of the company Valor, or please the contact number for their office? How would you respond to that?
Sure. So we have a physical address, but the physical address, there's no one there. So we are a fully remote company. So that's actually not going to help anything. We get mail if needed or whatever may be from that physical address. But there's nobody there because since COVID, we've been a fully remote company. So that's the first thing. The second thing, we actually don't have an inbound number as of right now. We aspire to respond to our customers within 1 hour. So if you write to help@valor.com or you go to support.valor.com and you submit a ticket, our aspiration is to respond to you within an hour. Obviously, if there's something much more urgent, we try to filter through those first. If there's anything security related or anything like that. But if you are not receiving that service, let us know, because that's our aspiration. And one of the things that we pride ourselves in is good and quick service to our customers. And so if you want us to call you back in your email, just say, can someone please call me? And we do outbound calls to our customers. So if you want that, we can certainly do that. I think, on our support, this is one of the things where we believe we would really like to differentiate ourselves, and we believe we have. And if we haven't, I'd love to get your feedback. But our mantra on support is 3 things. So it's number 1, be kind, be helpful, and be quick. All right, so those are the 3 things that everybody in support knows. We're trying to be kind, we're trying to be helpful, and we're trying to be quick. So if we're not living up to that expectations, please let us know. We're failing you if we're not living up to that. So that is our aspiration. And I think from what I see, for the most part, we're getting there. Or we're there.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I've personally had some great responses from you guys, and I think that's really great to know that someone can actually receive a phone call. That's always a big one for me, is people want to talk to a person. And just to know that is a fantastic point. And obviously I understand why you wouldn't necessarily want to advertise that on a broad scale. But for those users that are watching this right now, to know that they can actually put their phone number in their support ticket and say, please, can someone phone me? I think that's incredible service.
I would say, again, remember, we should know who you are. So write to us from your email address that you've signed up. We have your telephone number on file, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to trade, and we'll call you. And if you're not a customer and you want us to call you, then sure, put your number in and we'll certainly give you a call.
Out of interest sake, how big is your support team?
I think we are just under 10 people right now. I think it's about 6 or 7, if I'm not mistaken. We have an interesting support model where effectively at Valor, one of the biggest places to learn is on support, right? So regardless of who you are, generally, you except for the technical team, you have to actually learn how to support our customers. You have to understand what the product is. You have to understand, what the issues that customers are facing. Regardless of how senior or junior you are in the company, we've got a very flat structure. Anybody in the company is always is welcome to ping me at any time. We encourage that. So given that, we have the ability to expand the number on the support desk immediately by redeploying. So if we've got a huge bull run and there's a lot of excitement from the public, then they need our assistance, then we deploy more resources to the support desk. So it's kind of like an accordion. We can kind of go larger or smaller depending on the demand. We like to have different hats on, and we need to make sure that everybody has the basics on how to support our customers with our product.
All right, and I think that that wraps up our questions. Yeah, there's no more left. Just to mention that Andrew and Mr. Samurai, KJ Samurai, did respond, just saying they have always had very quick responses from support. So well done to Vala. And you know, your 3 principles of support, I think, is so important. So just something that came to mind that I did want to ask around support again is, you know, I personally get very frustrated with banks trying to move everything digitally. You know, even though I'm a millennial, if I can settle something with the person in a branch, I want to go to a branch, and whatever it could be, whether it's a card problem, whether it's a financial product situation, if I can sit down with someone who can give me my need and meet my need in that moment, I would bank with that bank for life, you know, and that goes for my phone service provider, etc. What are your thoughts on support in that regard? I mean, especially with regards to Vala's aspirations, you know, what kind of company you're going to look like in 20 years' time. What are your thoughts around individualizing support? Because so many tech companies try to scale things and with that scale, automate things. Are you going to keep that personalized focus?
So we've actually had the discussion about whether we should have a physical location where people can come, meet with us, get support, whatever else they need, get, you know, to just understand who we are and help them open up an account, etc. The thing is that, as you said, the scalability is a big thing. And so we ultimately want to be able to support everybody fully digitally. You know, our aspiration is also not just South Africa. So our aspiration is global, right? And if our aspiration is global, then we can't obviously have at this stage of our evolution and our existence have, you know, a physical office in all the countries in which we have customers. And we have many countries or customers in many countries. So we want to provide the personalized service for sure, right? We spend actually a lot of time on the telephone with customers, making sure that they get that service, right? I think the physical branch is a tricky one. You know, there are some people like you that want that. I think more and more people don't want to get into their car and go out to a branch. It says they just want their issue to go away. So we really try hard to make your issue go away, and we really try hard to make sure you don't have an issue in the first place, right? So for us, support doesn't start at support. Like, we look at what is going on that's causing people to come to support. Let's look at what the root cause is. Let's try to solve the root cause so that they don't even need to know that there is a support desk, right? If they have to come to support, in a way, that's already a failure, right? Because we don't want people to have to come. Things should move and work smoothly. But obviously, technology is such that it doesn't always happen that way, so we have that. So personalization, yes, we always want to have that. And if we're never there, please call us out on that, because we want that aspiration to be real. Physical place, who knows? Maybe we have a pop-up thing in Joburg somewhere or in Cape Town somewhere, but at the moment, no plans for a physical location.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I totally understand that physical isn't easy. I was just using the example of a bank, but if you can speak to someone in person over the phone, you know, an individual connection, there's,
now,
I loved what Richard Branson said. Richard Branson said that at Virgin, specifically, I think it was Virgin Money, they empowered the support team to fix as many problems as possible. So the support team didn't have to escalate. As long as the support team could fix the problem, that's all that mattered, you know. So obviously I understand physical branch increases overheads, etc. But as long as your support team is able to help, I think that's the kind of appreciation we'll have.
If ever you are told, contact this person, or I hate that when I call a bank and they say, oh, sorry, you're through to the wrong department. call this number, or would you like me to give you the number before I put you through? And then you call that number and they say, oh, you need, like, that's just the worst, horrible. I can't believe in 2020 that banks offer that experience. I honestly cannot believe it. So we will never do that. You know, you have one point of contact when you come in. We will, sometimes we need to go and solve the problem for you because there might be some technical support that's required. But we will never go and tell you, go and contact someone else. We will do the legwork for you. You'll have one point of contact. We will sort it out. And when I say one point of contact, because we're on email right now, you might have several different people that are responding to you on the same email trail from the help@valor.com email address. But we'll solve it for you. We're getting stuff done. That's what we hope to do. Honestly, we can never get to that stage where we're telling you to call somebody else. That would just be a disaster.
All right. Well, that has been an extremely helpful AFA Ask Farzam Anything. It has been wonderful. Farzam, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to leave it there. We don't have any more questions. And I mean, that's been a solid 82 minutes. So thank you so much for all your time and your effort here today. Thank you so much for having me, James. It's been a pleasure, and I'll do it again soon. It really is. Final question from me is this. Yes. As you gain popularity and as Valor increases in user numbers, you're at the moment you're very active on social media, on Twitter, and in our WhatsApp groups. But there is obviously a concern that as you grow, you're going to become in more demand. Do you have a threshold as to when you would withdraw from that public image? Or is it just sort of when I feel it, I'm going to do it? James, you overestimate me. We're still small boys. We're trying to do big things. So that's probably some time away. So, so really, I certainly don't feel like that I'm at the stage of becoming a big wig that needs to withdraw from groups here and there. I mean, I have withdrawn from some groups just because there's a lot of noise in some groups that is just I don't want to be part of. You know, we're the people for the people. We're here with everybody with everybody else. So that hasn't even crossed my mind. So where I can, I'll always serve, and I try to be accessible to everybody on Twitter as well. No plans for that. I'm here peer-to-peer with everybody else. And before we go, any final comments to the users and our audience? I think just a big thank you. I'll always say, you know, when we started Valor, I was asked by my dad often, so how are you doing? You know, we hadn't launched at this stage. We hadn't launched, and how are you doing? Like, you know, how's the business and how's it going? And I said, well, we're getting the product ready, but we don't know whether we'll be successful or not. We have to put our best foot forward and then see where we end up. And I think a lot of it will depend on liquidity and the desire of the public to use our platform and our product. And I told him that, you know, from 2 to 3 months in from when we launch, we should know whether we've got a shot at this or not. And with any startup, there's a possibility that it doesn't go the way that you hope. And I think, and I can speak on behalf of my co-founders, that, you know, we've been delighted with the response from the South African public, particularly all our customers, the support. You know, your words of encouragement mean so much to us, right? So I think the big thing from me to our customers is just a huge thank you. I wouldn't be able to be here without them. We wouldn't be able to hire people without them. We wouldn't be able to build the company without them. And so I just want to thank you and ask you to hold us accountable. So if there's things that we can do better, let us know. And thank you for giving us the honor of serving you. That's the main thing. So thank you. Yeah, well, we can certainly say from our side as Global Crypto, watching your growth has been incredible. And well done. It's been such a delight to see. So congratulations, Farzam. Looking forward to seeing everything unfold in the future. And again, thank you for joining us on this AFA. We'll catch you again soon. Cheers, James. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Cheers. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for all your questions. We appreciate it. Don't forget to follow Vala on Twitter and Farzam. What are your social media handles quickly, Farzam, just so that I don't get it wrong?
So, Valor.com, VALR.com. So Valor.com is Valor, and then my own is my first name and my last name. So Farzam Ehsani, one word, FARZAMEHSANI.
Wonderful. All right. So you can follow Vala and Farzam on Twitter. Follow us at Global Crypto TV. Links to our Telegram group there as well. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next edition. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.